Vlog 11.
Hey everyone, it's Adam
and Jay from the Aeroworks workshop, and today we are going to do a little something different, and we're going to talk about an important subject in the UAS community, which is search and rescue.
That's right. In fact, we just, 4 or 5 days ago got done with our own local search and rescue. One thing about search and rescue, guys, it's great if you can work in this industry and donate your time and aircraft to do it, but more importantly, you want to know how to do it safely and kind of some of those steps to get to working with local law enforcement and doing things the right way.
You just can't walk out there and just say, I'm throwing up my drone and I'm going to search for the person. It just doesn't work that way.
Exactly. And the thing is, there's a lot of ways that you can gain experience. One way is go out and practice. We do a lot of practice just on our own. We go out to vacant fields and we'll set up a grid pattern and we'll do a search, whether that be with a thermal camera or maybe a mapping mission. But another way you can do it is actually go out and talk to your local law enforcement. Go out and talk to fire agencies, police agencies, and see if you can possibly help or assist in a training mission that they may be doing. And that way you're actually showing your skills and your equipment, but not in a life, situation where it's going to be dependent on it. Because the last thing you want to do is find out that your gear doesn't work when you're actually on a search and rescue mission.
Right. You want to get a good rapport with the law enforcement and fire departments within your area, and you don't want to just come off as you're in charge. You're working for them.
Exactly.
So you want to go out there and just, again, like Adam said, just prove your equipment and your abilities to do what they need you to do. And remember, they're in charge. You're working for them. So it's
right. And there's actually something called ICS, and that's called the Incident Command System. You can actually search that. We'll put a link down below. You can go online, and they actually have some free courses that cover kind of the structure of how incident command works. And this could be everything from a search and rescue mission like we were on a few nights ago, up to and including like a natural disaster.
Right. Speaking of natural disasters, right as of now, we have Hurricane Matthew is hitting the Bahamas.
Exactly.
And on its way to the East Coast,
almost
Florida,
the entire state. Yep.
South Carolina, North Carolina. I know there's a lot of evacuation. We have a few friends down there that are on their way out of there. And again, with that, you want to practice safe. You don't want to be. You can't be flying your drone in
weather.
In weather, 100 mile an hour winds or 30 mile an hour winds. And again, once the hurricane has passed by, you don't want to just be throwing your drones up.
Right.
And trying to get all these shots without, being in a safe area, coordination with the law enforcement or fire department or whoever's in charge of the areas.
Right.
Because that's the first thing people want to do.
Yeah, whether you want to just get some amazing shots of the disaster for news agencies or whether you're searching for loved ones, it needs to be coordinated. You need to, if you want to use your equipment and go out and donate your time, make sure you're getting in touch with somebody. I'm sure there'll be many incident commands around the state. Get down there and say, hey, I'd love to donate my time and my aircraft to help search or maybe look at flooded areas. But if they say, hey, no, we don't want you to because we've got Black Hawk helicopters flying around, you need to respect that and keep your aircraft on the ground, because the last thing you want to do is create a dangerous situation for manned aircraft, and especially when it's chaotic and there's maybe not phone systems working and everything else.
We got medevac helicopters probably flying around and fire departments,
military, everybody.
Yeah. So you don't want to impede on anybody's search rescues or any of that.
Right. So again, we'll put a link down below. It's a great course. It kind of gives you an overview of how incident commands work. Again, whether it's a crime scene, search and rescue, natural disaster, there is a ebb and flow to how that all works, and you want to make sure and follow it. So obviously, we don't want to have any Let's try that again. Rogue drone operations. Okay, we don't want that, because obviously, like we said, that could cause an issue. Another thing, if you are invited to help with a search, you're working for the law enforcement. You're working for the incident commander. You're not working for Fox News or CBS or CNN. So when you get approached by people, they want to get that news out of you. They want to know, did you find anybody? Did you do this? Did you do that? It's important that you say, you need to go talk to the incident commander. He has all the information, or she has all the information. I'm just here flying my UAS.
In assistance. And remember, with the rogue mission that you may go out and want to do, that's going to put a negative light on you and your drone. So if you're trying to get out and do it in a positive light, which we promote, positive information on this, then you want to just get in touch with somebody, and I'm sure they'll be happy to have you go up and be able to see what kind of, hopefully not a whole lot of devastation and destruction, but it can happen.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about some common gear that we use in search and rescue missions. So everybody has a favorite UAS system they like to use. We typically use a lot the Inspire 1. We use an Inspire Pro, a Phantom 4. We even use a Matrix now. It doesn't really matter what brand you use, but you do want to make sure that it's reliable, that you feel confident in flying it, and that you have a backup to that, because if you show up with just one unit and it doesn't work, or the firmware update that you did the night before doesn't work, that's not a good situation. You want to make sure your gear is ready and on the ready. And for us in our commercial operations, one of the things that we do is after we're done with our mission, we actually do, it's almost like a backwards pre-flight. We do a post-flight, which is essentially the pre-flight for the next mission. So when this copter goes in the case, I know that the screws are tight. I know the props are clean and put away. I know that everything on this aircraft is ready for the next mission, whether it be an hour from now or 5 days from now. I know that if I take this out of the case, and it hasn't been taken out since I put it in, that it's ready to go.
Which was the case on Sunday afternoon. I was at home just enjoying the day, and I get a call from Adam saying, listen, we have a lost child. It's about an hour away from our location. We were contacted by local law enforcement, and he said, you want to go? I said, let's go. Probably within about 30 minutes of getting the call, we were on the road. And the reason for that was exactly what Adam just said, was that we pretty much had all of our equipment ready. We, of course, went through everything real quick. We got props, extra batteries, and all that stuff. Is everything charged? And then again, we also brought a lot of extra equipment with us.
Yeah, I think that goes back with talking about spares and things. If you just have one copter and 2 batteries, that's only going to last you, what, a half an hour, and that's if everything works perfectly. So not only do we have a minimum of like 2 hours of battery life without even charging anything, we have additional chargers on site. We have a generator. We have a backup copter to the backup copter. So everything has its spares. And every time you do one of these missions, I think we learn a little bit more about, well, geez, I wish I had more batteries for the monitor, or
a bigger monitor.
Or bigger monitor, yeah, or maybe 2 monitors. We have one of the original view cameras, the FLIR camera, and ours is not on a gimbal like the X3 camera is, where it's stabilized and can point up and down. Ours is on a fixed mount and actually mounts to the bottom of the Inspire. Now, while that gives us a great thermal image, the problem is you can see by the angle that if the copter's here, we're looking at something that's 300-400 yards out in front of us. And if we want to get up on this subject right here, if we fly up to it, now the camera's looking 300 yards past it. So we have some limitations when it comes to a fixed mount camera. DJI and FLIR now make the XT camera, which we're hopefully trying to get for our search and rescue operations. And in fact, we have a link down below if you're interested in helping out in any of these operations. We've been on at least 2 or 3 search and rescues. We've been on a fugitive, a manhunt for somebody that was actually kind of terrorizing the area. So it's important. This is important gear that saves lives and keeps people safe. And unfortunately, when we donate our time and all of our aircraft, this is completely volunteer. We don't expect to be paid. We're not making any money, and we're donating not only our hours. We were on scene about 6.5, almost 7 hours the other night. We donate all of our time, our aircraft, the gas to get there. So sometimes there can be a big expense, and you need to be prepared for that too. That it's not just about, oh, I want to get out and be on the news because I saved someone with my drone. It's more about, am I prepared for that expenditure? Am I prepared to possibly lose my drone should something happen? And so you need to be prepared. There's a lot of things that go into that. So let's talk a little bit about, we have some notes for ourselves here. So search and rescue, obviously it's very popular now as far as everybody wants to help. We have a couple great organizations. We'll put links down below. One of them is the Swarm Network. That is an all-volunteer worldwide organization that people can donate their time and their aircraft. And if you join up on their Facebook group or go to sardrones.org, you can actually get on the roster. You have to meet some minimum requirements. And then if there is a search in your area, you'll be essentially called or messaged and say, hey, can you help out? Another great one is Air Bears, and these guys are great. They're based out of Minnesota. They do pretty much the same thing. They're both a little bit structured slightly differently, but they both do and volunteer their time and their equipment. And then there are some also other animal rescue type ones. People that are missing dogs or pets or horses. There's some other organizations there. So if you find that you like any of those, you can definitely donate your time and sign up for those as well. Some of the things you want to have. So we obviously talked about having an aircraft that is reliable, that you feel comfortable using. You want to have possibly a spare aircraft. You want to have plenty of batteries. Now we say at least 2 to 3 hours.
Correct.
If you don't have any chargers or any way to charge it, you should have at least 2 to 3 hours of charging time or flight time. If you do have the ability to have a charger, bring that with you, or a generator.
And or
both.
We had both. We were charging constantly. As soon as we were done, we were charging. And again, with those two organizations, most of them require you to be able to fly for a minimum.
I think it's at least 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's where you need the extra batteries and
right. Because a lot of times these searches can go on and on all night, and usually they're not in the best of weather, they're not in the best of location. Many times they're at night, and that's why we were called out, because of the FLIR capabilities. And another reason people say, well, why would they call you out when there's helicopters and all that? And a perfect example, our night where we're located, completely fogged in. Where the manned aircraft was stationed, also completely fogged in. But where the child was missing, the weather was pretty good. So we were able to be on scene within an hour, and all the other aircraft were essentially grounded. They couldn't even take off because it was IFR, or instrument flight rules. So another example of how a small UAS with the right crew and the right gear can be on scene faster. We were essentially on scene from the first text or call to searching in about an hour and a half.
Correct.
And it took the entire night and into the next morning before any manned helicopters could even get there. So important to have the right gear, batteries. Another thing, have enough memory cards. A lot of times, whether you're doing a search in the daytime where you're maybe doing a mapping mission, or at night with FLIR, you may eventually get to a point where you want to turn that footage over to law enforcement. Now they may or may not have a way to even transfer that, and you may be giving up your card. You know, again, you're donating your time, you may end up giving up your card as well. So be prepared to have, you know, more than just one memory card.
Yeah, and actually we volunteered and gave them our footage, but we had a way to transfer it to their computer, so we went to the command center, popped it in a computer within
Well, that's a good point,
8 minutes.
having an adapter or a cord or some way to transfer it to them to make it easier for them should they not have a modern computer or laptop right there on scene.
Because this way they can go back and actually look at the footage and see what you did. And we had maps of where we had been. And at the end of the night when we were released and ready to leave, Adam went on to a map and we made areas in which we had searched, because he had that all on the DJI Go app.
Exactly.
And was able to, you know,
right. Yeah, if you're familiar with the Go app and DJI, you can keep the little breadcrumb trail where you've flown, and that was very helpful because we were able to pull those maps up and say, okay, well, we searched this area, we searched this area, we feel confident that this complete area has been searched. And especially at night with the FLIR technology, it was fairly easy to see, you know, the hot spots. Now, what did make it difficult was having 150 to 200 volunteers show up and just blast off into the field without any training or with any organization, I should say. It doesn't take much training to walk through a field. That's pretty easy.
Right.
But when we're searching the field and there's essentially nothing in it right now, and then all of a sudden we have 300 random people walking around, that essentially puts our efforts,
you can't,
there's nothing we can do.
You
we
don't
see
know
300 people now.
Right.
So another reason why it's important for everybody, not just drone operators, but volunteers, dogs, horseback riders, ATV, it's great you want to volunteer. Make sure you get with that incident command center system and talk to the right people. Tell them you're there to volunteer. Where should I go? What should I do?
Correct.
You know, and follow what they want you to do, because they have some organization. They have a plan of how to get everybody used the most effectively.
And we actually had to move 4 times within the night because we were running out of range. Not so much range, but by the time we got on site and was able to search, we couldn't be on site long enough. We had to come back, so we moved 4 times in order to get better positioning. So be prepared that you had to move. So we loaded the generator back up and closed everything up. We moved, unloaded, and went right back on to what we had to do. And in the search and rescue area, there is 4 threes that we need to know about. You want to talk about those?
Yeah, we think of the 333. We've all heard that for a while, but there's actually 4 threes. And in search and rescue, there's something that we go off of. So the human being, or human, can last for only 3 minutes if you don't have what? And that's
oxygen.
Oxygen. So that's your first 3. The second one is 3 hours. If a human being is exposed to the elements, that could be 120-degree heat with no suntan lotion, hat, shirt on, or it could be minus 22 degrees in the snow with no proper jacket on. A human can only last for about 3 hours in the elements before something's going to happen to them, essentially.
Right.
And then we think about water. We need water within 3 days, or serious things are going to happen. And the last one is 3 weeks. We can only go about 3 weeks without eating anything before our body starts to break down. So if you think of those 3 we'll put those on the screen. Think of how somebody lost in the woods or the mountains, or a child that's been outside overnight in the elements for more than 3 hours with no jacket on, like this little boy was. He was out with shorts and a button-up shirt on, and it was probably 50 degrees out.
By the end of the night,
it had rained, it was misty out, it was cold. It was very cold. So that's why search and rescue is so important, but it's important to do it effectively. So these are just some of the things. We do have a couple little gadgets on the table we want to talk about. Many of you may have heard of a company called Loon Use, and these are actually little LED battery-powered lights, and they have variable intensities. I think they go up to about 10. On the bottom, they have a 1/4 by 20 thread, so anything that you can put on a tripod or on a mount that holds a tripod adapter, you can put those on. They do actually make mounts for the Phantom 4 and the Inspire 1. They have some brackets that go on there. And this allows you to light up an area. So maybe you don't have a FLIR camera, but maybe you can throw 2 of these up and light up a wooded area to help searchers find somebody, or maybe a cornfield. So these are great. They sell them in like bundles of 2 and individually and with a mounting kit, without. So we'll put a link down there for Loon Use. That's a great little item.
Don't look.
Yeah, don't look at the light. Jay's been looking at it all day, and he can't even read now. Another item we talked about is the FLIR camera, and FLIR is actually a brand name. It's kind of like when people say Scotch tape.
Jet skis.
Yeah, FLIR is actually forward-looking infrared, but it's actually a brand name. But there are many thermal sensors out there, and these are actually sensors. They pick up heat, and in fact, down to about 1/10 of 1 degree, they can see the difference in heat. So when you're out there and you're flying with one of these on there, you're not seeing an image, you're actually picking up the differences in heat. And in the case of our flight, we were actually looking for hot spots because the ground was much cooler than the bodies that were out there. And we were seeing everything from rabbits to deer. And in one case, we thought we had a target, and it was actually a metal culvert just laying in the woods that somebody had thrown. And that metal was actually slightly warmer than the woods and the trees and the grass around, and it showed up looking like a body laying there. We were able to rule out all these things. And that's something that's important too, is that you may not always be the one that's going to find what you're looking for, but we're also there to rule out things.
Absolutely.
So in the case of the cornfields, we have a gigantic, let's say 10-acre cornfield. We can either send 100 people through there and take up an hour of time, or we can put the UAS up in the air and look at the whole cornfield with our thermal imaging and see there's nobody in there. So we can then take those 100 people and put them somewhere else where maybe we can't see, like along a riverbed or in a thickly wooded area. So it's just as much important to rule out things as it is to find things.
Correct.
And that's, in our case, what ended up happening. We searched all night long, and it turned up that he had actually he went 1.5 miles further than where he took off from, and was found in a local farmer's barn or somewhere near it the next morning, totally safe, a little cold, a little scared. Luckily he was safe, and you know, we were happy with our efforts. We searched everywhere we could. Everywhere, in fact, the law enforcement wanted us to search.
Right.
So, you know, don't be down if you don't find somebody. It's important to get out there and do everything you can and use your equipment to the best of its ability.
And work with them. I mean, that's what we're all about. That's why they called us, because we have worked with somebody from a different department before, and they knew us. So they called us because they knew we had the FLIR camera, which of course they were needing because dark was coming in.
Right.
So it's important, again, to get those relationships built up. Don't be afraid to go down there and say, hey, this is what I got. But don't remember, they're going to be asking you, how much time have you been flying? What kind of equipment
that's important too.
You know,
Jay and I are both licensed pilots. We've been flying drones a long time. It's important also, don't just because you got a drone for Christmas, don't run down there and say, I want to start flying drones for the police department. You should at least first get your own experience under your belt, feel confident in the aircraft you're flying, no matter what brand it is. Make sure you know it inside and out, firmware updates, software, how to run everything, and then go out and practice a lot. You know, do your own mission. Send your friend or your brother or sister out and say, let me see if I can find you. Learn about all the various softwares that are out there. That are, some are free, some are paid. There's mapping software. Learn about the various cameras and filters and special lighting. Get all that under your belt, and then go down to your local law enforcement or fire department and say, hey, I'd love to show you what we can do, and I'd love to donate my time to you. And of course, you're doing it when it's not a real emergency, because they've got time, you've got time. So that's the best way to get into it. If you are interested in search and rescue, make sure to check out the 2 organizations we talked about, the Swarm Network, or SARdrones.org, and Airbears.
Right.
Check out the Incident Command System. You want to go ahead and take that course. I'll put a link down below. These are all free things that you can join and check out. There's no cost to you there. Obviously, you're going to have the cost of your aircraft. That's up to you. If you are interested in donating to the causes that we provide search and rescue efforts for, the link is down below.
And just remember, too, that always try and have your equipment ready to go.
Right.
You know, it doesn't happen all the time, but, you know, have your batteries, make sure they're charged, or you have the ability to charge while you're on site.
Yeah.
But it's good to have a couple batteries charged up and ready to go. And that's the biggest thing. And just be willing to help them for what they want, not for what you want. It's not about you. It's about what you can do for them.
Yep. And sometimes having batteries and things charged can be difficult because we don't want to leave them charged too long, but we don't want to have them drained. So maybe keep 1 or 2 batteries ready to go or almost topped off. And then maybe you have a car adapter. When you're driving to the scene, you can be charging one up, and then when you get there, charge up the rest. You know, something like that. Have a plan for everything. Keep everything organized. Keep your equipment safe and in a case. I think that's about it for right now.
It is about
But again, if you want any more information, check out all the links down below. Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel, because we're actually going to be doing some demos on this equipment. We're going to talk a little bit more, go into some actual flying of the equipment and how we do searches with both rotorcraft and some of our fixed-wing aircrafts.
Right.
And those will be coming up in future vlogs.
Because we are actually getting ready to test out maybe a helicopter that we have been working on. Gas-powered helicopter that can stay up for about 80 minutes. So it's not just drones. It could be drones, it could be airplanes, because we're working again with an airplane that we've been trying out that's working out very well. So it's unlimited to what you can do. Just be ready and just be willing to do whatever they need you to do.
Exactly. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. Again, check out the links. Make sure you like and subscribe.
And our friends in Florida and on the East Coast, please stay safe and good luck, and we'll talk to you soon.
That's right.
Turn your magic on. Let me see it say.